Today I'm chatting with Patrick Power from Arctic Star Exploration. I find Arctic Star a really interesting exploration deal because they're looking for diamonds. So why do I find diamonds fascinating? Well, simply put, because nobody cares. Now, I don't mean nobody cares because the economics aren't there. According to Bain & Co., we're talking about a $90 billion market that has insane margins. Some of the best investments or trades I've ever made have been on companies that are in sectors that are just completely ignored. And if you think diamonds as a sector, as an industry, can't be loved, well, just look back to the mid-90s. There were over 150 publicly traded companies on the Canadian junior markets, and diamonds were effectively what the cannabis industry was 3 years ago for the Canadian stock market. So Arctic Star is a big fish in a small pond where there's less than a dozen diamond exploration plays in Canada. In this interview, we talk about why diamonds have fallen out of favor with the Canadian junior investor. We discuss the impact of two of the largest jewelry retailers in the world banning Russian diamonds. And we get into what Pat and Buddy need to do to move this project forward and unlock that shareholder value that we all believe is in there. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Pat, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Steve. Good to see you again.
Okay, so let's just talk what's happened with diamonds. You've been in this for decades now. In the mid 90s, there were, I don't know, over 150 diamond companies. Today, there's what, less than a dozen, maybe less than half a dozen.
Less than half a dozen.
So the question becomes this: why did diamonds lose their attractiveness for junior investors, and why does one of the few companies remaining, why is it attractive for junior investors today?
Well, good question. Why it became not attractive is a lot of money went into exploration in the 90s, like billions of dollars, that started not to pay off. So you had these two big mines come around, then you had a super huge amount of exploration dollars pouring in, and it did well early, but as time went on, people understood as the knowledge of how diamond exploration and the results lead to something that's economic, how that comes around, less and less things were actually showing that. It's not an easy game. It's just not like gold where you can stick a hole in the ground and you'll get a gold result of some kind. This is a really, it's an art form. It takes a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of actually experience and years. You know, this company that Buddy and I run, it's an experience from Buddy finding Diavik, having 20 years past Diavik, and looking for the next deposit, which was not easy for anybody. If you look at anybody, there is no second mine. Like Chuck doesn't have a second mine. The Ekati experience was his thing. Buddy had the Rio Tinto experience was his Diavik, but it's really hard to find the second product. And we've taken our time. Buddy in particular has put together a really great understanding of what went wrong in that exploration period, which was a lot of things, and how we have to look at it now to make that more of a productive thing. And we're involved in that right now, and it's being very successful. And it's only early in that stage, and when we just in the last 2 years managed to raise the money to really initiate that process, and it's working really well for us. And we've got lots of success under our belt in 2 drilling seasons. And we just had some results yesterday, which I think were really good, and I'll explain those in time. But yeah, and there's a lot more to come. And I think that's the reason why exploration and people stopped investing in exploration companies for diamonds. But, you know, as you look at the diamond industry, if you were to be successful now, there is no better time ever in the history of diamonds to be successful. Rough diamond prices are selling at the best price they ever have. So it is an exclusive market, but it is the best market to be in if you're successful at what you're doing. So that's the premise.
Okay, so let's talk Arctic Star. There's 3 main kimberlite pipes that you guys are exploring right now. We've got the Sequoia, the Arbutus, and then Finlay. Can you break down what the 3 sort of prospects in the pipes are, where we're at?
Sure. 2 of those pipes are our discoveries. That would be Sequoia and Arbutus. But Arbutus is tied in with an old De Beers pipe called Finlay. They hit that in the mid-90s. They put 7 holes into that pipe. And believe me, as an explorationist, it doesn't matter if you're with a big company or a small company, you do not spend that kind of money unless you have really good evidence there's a reason to put another dollar in the ground. So to find out if you're going to drill a second hole, you need to know the first hole had really good diamond count. And then the second hole, to drill a third hole, it has to continue on. And to drill 7 holes, 4 De Beers in that one body said a lot. And we're pretty convinced, because we've chatted with a few of those people from those days, that they had really nice results. But at that time in the 90s, they had to build their own mine. They could not participate with Rio Tinto's mine or BHP's mine. De Beers needed to build their own mine. And a standalone pipe is really difficult to do that with, unless it's a very, very, very large body. And it's not. It's a very average sized body. So it may produce really good numbers out of it. But we're not looking, our whole philosophy is not to build a mine here. It's to build an ore body and sell it to one of the existing mines who are at this point running low in their ore and in their lifespan. So they need to replace right now ore for their mills. So that's our premise. So it makes a body that wasn't big enough to be a standalone mine back in the 90s a very attractive ore body to be mined in the 2022 plus era.
So how much exploration is there in the Northwest Territories for diamonds right now? Is it just a couple of majors and you guys, or are there dozens of other companies going around staking land?
I don't think this will ever go through a staking rush like it did back in the 90s. That was the world's largest staking rush. I mean, just the whole territories, the whole craton was staked like instantly. People are wary because you need to be really good at what you do to have success here. And it needs a lot of thought. And you have to understand the geology of this. And you have to understand the specifics of diamond exploration, which, that's what Buddy brought to the table 8 years ago when we first picked up Diagras, was a different philosophy from the early days. The early days was drilling these mag lows and you hit them. So you were successful in hitting new bodies, but none of them really panned out to be part of any mine plan. All the successful pipes with Akati and Diavik turned out to be other geophysical responses like EM or gravity or a combination of both those. It might have been mildly magnetic, but it wasn't a strong mag target. So Buddy, after hitting 100 pipes up there with Rio Tinto, kind of got this message, and he said, we have to do this we have to change, we have to alter, because there's more out there. First pass, successful, 2 mines came out of it. Second pass needs to be a little bit more intelligent and understand what we did in the first pass that was right and wrong. He figured out that, and he proved it back in 98 when he took 20 of his old Rio Tinto pipes that were not successful. And he did these very large ground grids. So in effect, we were actually exploring with these large ground grids, which is unusual. Usually just follow up with ground grids from the air and do tight little targets over, it's expensive, and then drill or not drill your target. So Buddy did these very, very large grids of other geophysics other than mag around known kimberlites that he had found. And he found 10 more kimberlites around those known kimberlites that were not magnetic, drilled them all. And the real great piece of data that came out of that was that everyone had a better diamond count than the sister mag low. So the mag pipes were, as he thought, were providing less diamond response because of resorption. The process of being magnetic is got a lot of oxygen involved, and therefore heat, and heat is negative for diamonds. There's partial to full resorption in the diamonds, and you can see it in the scarring of the diamonds, the etching of the diamonds. So he proved his point back in 98 when he was working for the big company. When he left there, it came to us in 2004. This was always on his mind. We did another project, and then he stepped up and said, okay, I think De Beers might drop this big property called Hardy Lake at the time. They've had 25 kimberlites, the majority of them are mag lows. It's right on trend with everything Akati and Diavik does. I really want to get this property. So we got it. It took years because it was so difficult to raise money to actually even get to the point where we could step in there and drill. We did some geophysics early, but we almost lost the property because of lack of interest in diamonds overall. We got that interest back 2 years ago because we saw the rough price going higher, and identified some people that understood that as well. Our first 2 programs produced 5 pipes around De Beers' old mag low targets. One of them Sequoia, which is the largest intrusion that we can see in the entire territories. And it has a really interesting large diamond chemistry, which is akin to like the Lucara chemistry. It's akin to a few other big pipes that produce the 1,000 carat plus diamonds in the world. It's very different. It's not G10 traditional Diagras chemistry. It's G911 chemistry. So that and it produces really clear diamonds, and we saw that in the first 500 diamonds we got out of that last year when we drilled it. They were described, all of them, as clear white diamonds, which is exactly what that chemistry should produce: clear, flawless white diamonds. We just hit yesterday. We got the results back from Arbutus. Is one of the pipes we hit last year or this year in drilling. That pipe produced very traditional Lac de Gras chemistry, which is that very high-end G10, G1010, as Chuck calls it, chemistry. That's very much like Acadian Diavik, but you get a percentage of the diamond.
So what does that mean? G10 chemistry, like in simple terms.
These really good geochemistry grows with diamond. Like these diamonds are formed, they grow. And literally the chemistry around them grows with them if it's all the right pressure and it's all the right place. And if you get the right perfect chemistry, they grow touching diamond. That's the only way they grow. So Chuck he does all our chemistry for us. He's the chemistry god of the diamond world.
Yep.
So he's the guy we take the chemistry to, and he reports back to us. And he's got obviously his Acadi experience, and that was highly successful, and he's used that as a basis. But he's derived grains and indicator minerals from around the planet, and mostly inclusions in big diamonds. So he's asked all the diamond producers, when you break a diamond, get an inclusion, please send it to me. He microprobes it, so he understands to the X decimal what every grain is made up of. And he understands the pressure and heat it happened, so where in the system it happened. And he can, that's one of the ways we look at things and say, it's got a really good chance of being diamondiferous, or it hasn't, or in this case, a Sequoia, it has a really high probability of producing large, clear diamonds. So that's really good.
Is the term, so we talk about a kimberlite pipe, right? It's either diamondiferous or it's not. Or is the term diamondiferous, like is there a degree to it when you hear the word, or is it just sort of, we've either got diamonds, there's some, there's none, or.
Mm-hmm. Well, for example, yesterday's result was 143 kilos out of Arbutus, a discovery pipe that we hit in April, May of this year, maybe even almost June. That's a very small sample. What we wanted to prove out of that is this diamond, it contains diamonds. So that's the first thing out of a small sample. It contains diamonds. You get the chemistry from that core as well, which tells you what you can or can't expect if you take more of a sample. So we want to see that before we commit to the money to take a bigger sample. So that chemistry from Arbutus will be released probably. It's possible today, but I don't think so.
So by the time this video is published, it will probably be.
And that's coming from a different source. That's coming from CF Minerals out of Kelowna. That's Chuck's lab, and that's what he specializes in. He's the person that gives us an idea, just as he did with Sequoia on that chemistry, saying this chemistry looks like this, this, and this, and this has happened in those pipes. Very positive. It's got a lower grade Sequoia. It'll have a lower grade, but it'll have high quality diamonds. So the other thing we need to talk about is the quality of your diamonds and how much per carat they're worth. That really plays into if it's economic or not. So in a Sequoia scenario, you get a big body, a lot of tonnage. This chemistry gives you lower grade, but very valuable diamonds. So you can afford to have a smaller grade and have these, like one of these big diamonds goes for a lot of money, i.e., 1,000 carat flawless diamond goes for tens of millions of dollars. So that really changes the profile of your deposit, and it makes it very economic in a certain way. The G10 chemistry gives you more diamonds, but you do get some off colors and bort in that mix. Diavik, the most prolific pipe in the territories that Buddy found, he was telling me that 30 to 40% of those diamonds are clear white. The rest are off color and bort. So you see the variation, but there'll be more diamonds. You get a better grade.
For our audience, clear white that's going to be your highest quality diamonds?
Well, people talk about colored diamonds.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of De Beers, right? I mean, diamonds, if you have a colored diamond, and we have a yellow out of that result yesterday. We had a yellow in the Arbutus results, and that's really interesting and cool. And they go for a lot of money, but it's a marketing thing. Like any diamond
Mhm.
that has any color to it has had an inclusion. It's not perfect. The
Mhm.
perfect diamonds are clear white diamonds with no
Mhm.
inclusions of any kind. So those are the, if you have to have a body, I would rather have a body of clear white diamonds. That would be my preference. If you got a body like the Argyle mine produced all, it invented the pinks,
Mhm.
mostly because they had to, because they were getting pinks. And it became a very, very big thing in the world. Blues are also big. Canaries are also, yellow canaries are also big. But that's marketing. The traditional diamond, especially for engagement rings, and is a clear white diamond.
So what's the next steps here? We're waiting on the chemistry from Arbutus, and then we got drill results from Sequoia.
Correct. We're waiting. Sequoia was 2 metric tons of material in the lab, so it's a big sample. So that's taking a little longer. Arbutus took longer than we thought it would, so we're going to be a little bit behind on Sequoia, but that will come in the next 3 to 4 weeks. We'll have that. And in the Arbutus situation, the result we got yesterday Buddy and I have made the decision to put more holes into Arbutus because we want to see, like, it's worth it now. But it also
Mm-hmm.
lets us drill Finley too, which is like 50, 75 meters away from Arbutus. And maybe actually, if you drill it, might be part of the same body, which the chemistry is suggesting. Look at it. And the fact that De Beers put 7 holes into it, and by the way, never released a diamond result. That bothers us a bit because, kind of what you do when you put work into the ground is you always disclose what you've done. And De Beers did not disclose on 7 holes their diamond counts. So that would lead me to believe they had some really interesting results out of that. And the chemistry we're seeing in Arbutus certainly says that. But you'll see the chemistry on, I hope, Monday. It comes out of CFM today or tomorrow, and we'll have a comment from Tiffany as well, I believe, that just gives his overall experience on that kind of chemistry and what it means to him.
Mm-hmm. This might sound like a totally naive question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Would it be possible that a company like De Beers, who owns so much of the diamond resources that exist, or so much of the supply, that they'd see something that made it worth exploring, but they chose not to because they don't want that supply unlocked?
Well, so we think it really came close to being something of a mine. It just might have been, the body might not have been big enough to support the build of a $2 billion mine. For example, Akadi and Diavik, both are multi-pipe mines. They are 4 and 5 pipes to make up a mine. This is a single body. So it had to be big enough to justify, at that time, about a $2 billion US build. So if it couldn't, and it was really close, it's not in De Beers, who controls a lot of the diamond assets of the world, it's not in their best interest to promote it was really close.
Yeah.
So they just don't want anyone to know about it, and they just put it aside because it didn't work for them at the time in 1994-5 era. So that's a super big positive in our camp. We kind of understand that stuff. We've dealt with large diamond companies and large companies that like De Beers and BHP and Rio Tinto. We've dealt with them for decades. We get their mentality. Sometimes it really helps a small company to understand what the big companies can do and can't do. And we think, 7 holes in this day and age is about $1.5 million. $1.5 million for any exploration matter. And I don't care if it's from Rio Tinto or De Beers or from BHP. If they're wrong enough, they lose their job. So if you're putting that much money in, you had significant encouragement to do that. And it probably came down to, can we make this work? The engineers probably did the math on it and said, at this time, we don't think with the diamond prices where they are, it can work. Now, we're dealing with the best diamond prices on the planet right now. I mean, they've never been higher. So that dynamic changes right there. So you're getting a better price for your diamonds right now than you were in 94-5. And we don't have to build a mine. We have to build an ore body, which is basically taking it through feasibility, putting a lot of holes in, engineering it out, saying here's a pipe, here's how much it's worth, and here's how much we're selling it for, and it'll make you this much because that's how much is in it. That's all easy stuff. That wasn't easy back in 94.5.
Okay, one last question for you here. We've got two of the largest retailers for jewelries in the world announced that they're no longer going to be buying Russian diamonds as a result of the Ukraine invasion. How closely are you watching this? Do you think that this has a material impact on the diamond market?
Well, it does. I mean, Russia has supplied about 30 to 40% of the rough in the world, so that's going to have a kind of a massive impact, and there's nothing to replace it. It kind of follows this whole conversation. We're exclusive in doing diamond exploration. There is no one else doing this, and it's nothing's coming online to replace what's being lost. So it's a real opportunity if we can get investors to understand that it's a great time to be in this. And I know it's hard to really grasp it because there's 10,000 gold companies out there. Everyone understands gold to a certain degree, or silver, or something like that. But you guys do a great job of educating investors to what to look for, like what is good, what is bad, and that makes a big difference. And that's what we have to do. So that's what we're trying to do, is get out there in forums and just talk about, like, it's a great place to be successful in. You'd make more money as a company selling diamonds right now than you ever would have, and the competition is it's minimal to none. So it has all the right ingredients. It's an educational process to re-educate investors why it's a good thing to be around. So that's what we're doing.
It's funny because it's a multi-billion-dollar market out of the Northwest Territories that nobody talks about.
Well, who talks about it is the territory's government wants us dearly to do well. We got their last 2 years, we got the biggest grants coming out of NWT. The federal government doesn't want the mines to close, because if the mines close, their biggest source of income goes away. So the federal government needs to step in and help. So it's a cost to the federal government for the mines to go to business. Those mines need to keep going. So they're doing everything they can. They're helping us and encourage us in every way to make this go on. And that's a big thing, and we can feel it. I mean, I've never really enjoyed working with governments, but this is different. They're really on our side, and they've been very encouraging with finances and what can we do, and how can we getting a permit has always been a tough thing in our industry of any kind, in any mineral industry, to drill. They've really gone out of their way to make that process super efficient for us, so we can move faster. When we have the ability to raise money, we can execute because we have a permit to either drill or sample or whatever we're doing at the time. But that's a big thing for us, and we're seeing it in reality. They're making it happen for us. So I have nothing but praise for the two levels of government that we deal with right now, and they're very pro what we're doing.
Well, Pat, thanks so much for hopping on here and chatting with us. It'd be great if we could circle back after we get the Sequoia drill results. I'm very excited to see what those look like. We're hoping for the best here. We're incredibly long this name, and we think that it's only a matter of time until the market discovers what this opportunity really is all about.
Well, thanks for having me on, Steve. It's nice to actually chat about it in a really nice forum. We'll be more than happy to keep you updated as we go along here, which should be, we should have some results coming out next week on the chemistry, which should be discussed because it really is a fundamental of how this works.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much, Pat.
Okay, Steve. Take care.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comment section. All right. Thank you, everybody.